Hello everybody, what is up? Welcome back to the channel. We are back this week with another Let's Chat episode. I didn't post one last week, which was sad, but it just wasn't going to work out for me to be able to film and edit. But it was actually the first week I ever missed an upload, so it was kind of sad. But we're back, and we are doing our book review video. So as you guys may know, if you watched my last Let's Chat video, I think it was, I mentioned that I'd finished Happy, Messy, Scary Love. So we're going to be diving into my opinions and basically just talking about it. This is going to be a little bit of a spoiler heavy video, so if you haven't read it, then I'd maybe come back to it, but I don't actually know how much detail I'm going to be sharing, but I do plan on diving into the details a lot, so who knows. Okay, I want to start by saying I genuinely loved this book so much. I had said before that it was kind of like not a last minute buy, but my sister and I found it at the store, and it was actually in the clearance section, and we had never heard of it before, and we had read the inside of it, like the description, and we were like, oh, we have to get this. So we were really excited, and that was, I want to say, like 2 or 3 summers ago, and then I just kind of sat, and we never really read it. So at the beginning of the month, my sister and I were like, let's start reading more, because we had all of these books that we've never touched. So we decided that we were gonna almost make like a little bit of a book club between the two of us, but like read different books. So we were going through this whole list of things that she would read first and then I would read, and we'd flip-flop between picking books for each other. But anyway, we hadn't read this one, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start with this. Because I don't usually get into rom-com books. There's only been like 2 other ones that I've ever read before, and only one of them I really liked, which was better than the movies. So I was kind of curious to read this one because it's a little bit different than any of the other books that we have. It's kind of like its own thing. So I was really excited to check this one out and try it. The thing that immediately caught my attention about this book was that it's about a girl who is really into film and writing, which, if you know anything about me, that's my background too. And at the time, I was getting ready to start college, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly. So I'd already decided that I was going to go to film school. So I was really interested because I was like, I just kind of assumed that I would relate to her a lot and kind of resonate with the story a little bit. So I was curious to read it. There was also another movie-based book that we had picked up. I think it was the same trip, but it was nowhere near as good. I actually hate it. I don't remember what it's called.
Oh!
Something, I don't remember. Something with, I want to say not like the movies, but I'm thinking of Nothing Like the Movies, which is the sequel to Better Than the Movies. It's something like that. Some kind of a title like that. We had bought it, I think, like I said, I think it was the same shopping trip. If not, it was before. And I tried reading that one, and it was so bad. I hated it so much. So I was interested to try another one that was about film, hoping that it would be better, and it was. Happy, Messy, Scary Love is ironically about horror films, obviously, judging by the title. And I'm not a horror movie hater by any means. I actually don't mind horror movies all that much, but I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a fan. Like, I've never really delved into that world too much. I have only in the last year or 2 really ever started watching horror movies, just because I was like not too young before, but I just didn't, when I was a teenager, I didn't really get into all of that. But I watched Friday the 13th, I think it was 2 years ago, and then just last year I watched Until Dawn, which it is a horror movie, but like not really. I don't know if you would consider it like a classic horror movie in the, technical sense, but it was really good. So I like the horror aspect, and I'm more into psychological thrillers or like psychological horror. So I'd say that my favorite part about the horror genre is that there's so many different lanes that you could go with it. Like there's many variants of horror movies or horror stories. Because like you have your psychological thrillers, you have your slasher movies, your creature features, like all of these different kind of, I'd say, variants or like groups. Because like I don't necessarily love, and I'm such a hypocrite too because I also do this, but like I sometimes hate in film when like people clump many genres together and make it one. Like, yeah, horror's a genre, but I think that a lot of people forget that most genres of film have subgenres, which are very important to acknowledge, because yes, it's all still horror, but like those subgenres completely change that film and what that film's about and how people interpret that film, because like the whole point of a genre is it's describing what the movie's about. So like, yeah, it's a horror movie, but like what kind is it? Is it a slasher movie? Is it a creature feature? Like what is the main plot of the movie? Which is what makes subgenres so important, is because like it just describes a movie in a little bit more detail than just a basic genre can. So that was a really interesting part of the story, was like, obviously because she's a horror fan and a writer, they talk about those a lot. Like they talk about the intricate workings of horror films, and like more than just being fans of them and more than just watching them, they talk about like what makes them special or what makes them different. And like even the things that she talks about, like just to herself or like to the reader, is about like the things that she doesn't like in horror films, or the things that she wishes would change. Especially like the part that I love the most, maybe because she's a female writer approaching not only a male-dominated field, unfortunately, but more so because it's horror, and I feel like it's usually made by men for men. So she's kind of focuses in the story about like trying to change that, and like her future as a writer in horror, breaking out from the classics, but not necessarily in a good way. So I just love the different dynamics between, you know, film enjoyers and like aspiring professionals. It's an interesting dynamic for a book to have, and I personally have never read something that kind of explores that same argument, which I honestly would love to read more of. I love this book so much. I genuinely, if anybody knows any other books that are like this in a way, please leave a comment recommending some, because I really, really enjoyed this book. Okay, now let's get into some of the details about the story. So just a quick rundown of the general story and background of the book. Happy Messy Scary Love follows a girl named Olivia Knight, who just graduated from high school. Olivia is a horror film fan, as I said, and a writer. The story opens up with her trying to navigate life after high school and figuring out her future and what she wants to do. Olivia had applied to NYU but got rejected because she kind of phoned in her application, which is something she talks about a lot throughout the story. It's kind of like why she self-sabotaged herself a little bit, because like the whole thing, like the whole application process, as she described, was like she had to write, I don't remember how long it had to be, I think it was like a couple pages of a script for her application, and she just couldn't write anything. She didn't understand why, like she was having such a hard time writing, but she barely, I don't even think she made the page count that she needed for the application. So not only was it not her best work, it was shorter than it should have been. So she sent it in. She obviously didn't get in. So then, you know, the story goes on with her spending her summer figuring out like what to do next, basically what she wanted to do with her time now that she's not going to school, and what the next steps were for her in her life. One thing I really loved about the story was that it kind of dealt with, like, not only the pain of rejection, but, like, more so the understanding of why. Like, she knew she wasn't going to get in because she didn't even really try to apply. She just kind of phoned it in from the second she started doing it. But it was more so, like, her confusion of, like, why would I even, like, let myself fail? Or, like, why self-sabotage what she thought was the most important thing to her and her life. Like, she wanted to go to NYU so badly, but it was like she almost couldn't force herself to actually write or to actually, like, try to put herself out there. Yeah, basically the story goes on for a little bit. The beginning of the story is her navigating, like, the what do I do now kind of situation, or, like, just that kind of time in her life that is confusing anyway. I mean, graduating high school, and even if you know what you're doing after, or, like, you think you have it all planned out, it's a crazy time. So it's, like, the worst time in a person's life anyway. And then to be so unsure of what to do, or, like, almost having no choice but to kind of just figure it out on the spot, because NYU was the only thing she had planned. And so the fact that that fell through, it left her kind of, like, searching for what to do next. So we find out pretty soon after that Olivia had, for the past couple of months, had been messaging someone on Reddit because she was a part of a horror community on Reddit, and then she met someone named Elm. His handle's Elm Street Nightmare 84. They had, like, kind of connected, like, in the comments of posts, and they quickly found out that they had, like, a lot in common about their opinions on different movies and just horror stuff. So they started private messaging back and forth, and that went on for a couple of months. They talked every single day. They talked about more than just film stuff. Like, they really quickly became actual friends. So she kind of, when not trying to write, because she's working on a screenplay, when not trying to write and, like, dealing with her personal life, she's basically just talking to Elm. So pretty quickly, as the story continues, we kind of see, like, her and Elm's relationship kind of blossom. Like, they had been talking for months and they were really close, but just, you know, typical book fashion, their friendship kind of quickly became a little bit more intense as the story continues. So I can't remember if he knew about it before the book started or if he had found out about it during the book, but at some point she had told Elm about her screenplay that she was writing. It's called The Bad Decisions Handbook, and, you know, they had talked about it different times, and she told him all about it, and he thought that it was a great idea, which of course meant the world to her, because she was kind of questioning if, like, it was going to be good enough. The whole kind of her whole thing is that, like, her fear of rejection keeps her from writing. So obviously, like, Elm showing interest in her screenplay and the story that she was trying to write was obviously so important for her and a big deal, because nobody else in our life really shared the same enthusiasm for horror in general. Everyone she knows hates horror, but even, like, her writing, nobody really supported her the way that Elm did. So that helped a lot, hearing that from him. At some point pretty early on in the book, Elm decides that they should send selfies back and forth, because they joked about, like, what if they're, you know, catfishing each other, like, secretly old people. So he sends her a selfie, and she freaks out because she was super insecure anyway, and then she saw him and she got more insecure. So she tries to take a picture. It's such like a stupid moment, but, like, so real at the same time. Like, it's so relatable. I feel like it's one of those situations you look back at when you're older and it's like, why was that such a big deal? But, like, at the time, it's, like, literally the most terrifying thing on the planet. But she tries to take a selfie, and she just, like, everything about her looks wrong at the moment. Her hair doesn't look good, she has a zit, like, the whole thing. So she was like, there's no way I can send him a picture. My question is why, consider me vain, I don't know, why did nobody have a selfie just ready? Like, she had no pictures of herself. Why did she have to send one in that moment? Did she not have a single other photo that she could have sent him? Like, why was her first thought, like, I'll take a picture now? Do you not have any that you could send him if today wasn't a good day? But regardless, she decides that she can't send the picture. She's just absolutely beside herself. She's like, there's no way I can do this. So she has this brilliant idea to send him a picture of her best friend. Because a little bit of backstory with best friend is, her name is Katie. Olivia describes Katie as being perfect in every way. She is just absolutely obsessed with her in like a good way. Katie's blonde and she's like almost effortless in a way, to Olivia at least. Olivia views Katie so positively, and like in Olivia's eyes, Katie has no flaws. Like, she is the best of the best. She's just effortless. She's just is good at everything, and she just is absolutely perfect. So of course, Olivia, thinking the exact opposite of herself, really kind of puts Katie up on this pedestal a little bit. She goes through her and Katie's texts. It takes a selfie that Katie had sent her, like just randomly, and sends that to Elm. So she pretends to be Katie, basically, and catfishes Elm, thinking like, it's fine, you know, whatever. What would he know? What would it matter? So Olivia's convinced, like, nothing bad will come of this. Because she's like, oh, well, whatever. It's not like we're gonna meet or anything. Because he lives in North Carolina, I think it is. So she's like, okay, like, I'm never gonna see this guy. So, no harm, no foul, right? Because that's always how it works. So, flash forward, her and her parents decide that they're gonna go up north because they live in Brooklyn. During the summers, they go up north and they basically just like vacation outside of the city, just kind of get away. But they had recently gotten a cabin, so they decided that they were gonna go up there for the summer. And especially because Olivia wasn't gonna be going to school, they thought that, you know, it would be nice. So they go up to this cabin, and Olivia, at first, she was kind of disappointed about it. Wasn't really excited about being in the cabin all summer, especially because none of her friends were going to be there and she had to hang out with her parents the whole time. But then she thought, like, hey, this might be good for the writing process a little bit. So then she was kind of for it. She quickly becomes disappointed about a different thing because her mom decided that she needed to get a job, and she signed her up to work at this ziplining company because an old friend of hers ran it. The thing about Olivia is that she's deathly afraid of heights, and she's not necessarily outdoorsy because she's from Brooklyn, so she wasn't exactly happy about that. But her parents were kind of talking her to it because they're like, you know what, you need to step out of your comfort zone and you need to kind of break away from the monotony of your life kind of deal. So she was still a little iffy about it, but she decided to go along with it. So it's her first day. She goes to the ziplining place, she meets everybody, and one of the girls that works there was like showing her the ropes kind of thing, telling her about the place and like all of the other employees and stuff. And she goes to walk her to where she's like stationed, or like where she's gonna be working for the day, and she calls over one of the other employees because when Olivia first got there, she was like, again, telling her about like the other employees that work there and like all their names and a little bit about them. And she said, oh, there's one other new person here. So when they were walking to her ziplining station, she calls him over to like meet her. And the second he turns around, Olivia freezes. She gets all weird. It's Elm. Literally, it's so funny because like that's in the description in the inside of the book, like it's that scene basically. So it really drew me in the first time I read it because I was like, that's insane. But literally the whole time, as if it couldn't be worse, the whole book you kind of like find out a little bit more details about like how it came to be that they met. It's seriously crazy. That's the kind of thing that like it would totally happen. You know, this thing's like, oh, it's too crazy, it wouldn't happen. No, it would. Because that'd be my luck. If I ever, not that I would, but like if I ever did that, if I ever lied so heavily about something like that, that's probably the first thing I would freak out about. It's like, now I'm gonna meet him. Like, if I ever catfish somebody, I would be terrified, like, that I would meet them then. That would just be my luck. So, of course, she was like, he can't be here, how could he be here? She's so dumb sometimes. She was like, no, it can't be him. It looks like him, but it can't be him. Well, she noticed they were like walking together, and he, of course, was talking to her like it was normal because he didn't know who she was. So they were walking, and she was absolutely beside herself, freaked out because he was standing right in front of her. And she looks, and he had a scar, I think it was on his forehead or something, or like by his eye or whatever. Somewhere on his face, he has like a little scar. And she noticed it from his picture. And so when they were walking, she was looking at him, and she was like, it was almost like that was what convinced her. She noticed the scar, and she was like, oh, it has to be him. Because, like, obviously she knew. Deep down, she was trying to fight it, but she knew it was him. But there was just, like, she was picking out little details. She was becoming more and more convinced that, like, it wasn't just coincidentally another person that looked like him. Crazy situation. So then she had to work beside him the whole time, continuing to lie. So now that was 2 lies, technically. She was lying to him as Carrie, and then she was lying to him as Olivia. So, complete double life situation. So as if things weren't complicated enough, Olivia then had to basically, because, like, it's such a complicated situation, because she was so honest with Elm as Carrie, Olivia basically had to create a fake life as Olivia to Jake. Like, instead of doing the opposite, she had already been so honest about her real life and her real personality to Elm that she had to lie as Olivia so that he wouldn't kind of catch on that it was the same person. So, like, the first day at work, they were like chit-chatting, making small talk. I can't remember if she had asked him or if he had offered the information. Somehow horror movies came up, and he had asked her if she was into them, and she was like, it pained me, but I had to say no. And so, like, there was just, like, little details like that, or little things, like, she couldn't be a writer, she couldn't like horror movies, because that was Carrie's stuff. So Olivia had to be, like, the complete opposite to not make him suspicious at all. Which, like, to an extent, I get wanting to do that, but I feel like there were some things that, like, she could have just went with, or I feel like it would have made it easier for her to just be honest about, because, like, there's no way, if she had dialed some of the stuff back but, like, kept most of herself the same, there's no way he would have caught on. Like, there's some things, okay, the horror movie stuff, whatever, because then that just, Olivia admitting that she was into horror movies to Jake would have just led to them having conversations just the same as Elm and Carrie had. So I get that part, like, not wanting to make that the same, because then they would have had the same conversations, and it just would have kind of led to the same energy, and I feel like that probably would have made him notice similarities between herself. But, like, I don't know, there was I can't even remember, like, the little details right now, but there were some things he would ask her, he would bring up, and she would, like, freak out and just lie about or, like, change the topic. And it's like, it almost made it weirder, and it's like, you can just be honest. He's not gonna, like, he probably wouldn't have caught on to certain things. Like, if she just would have been a little less weird about it, she would have been fine, and she wouldn't have had to lie so much. So yeah, basically at that point she was just dealing with living a double life, and like I said before, almost lying. She was lying more about being Olivia than she was about being Carrie, because she had already started that relationship being herself. So it was just kind of keeping him off her radar in a way, and dealing with, like, not crossing over between worlds. So it was especially difficult with Olivia because, yeah, it was in person, and she had to make stuff up. But then it also quickly became difficult as Carrie too, because she, like, also couldn't share certain things that were happening, or, like, there was a couple times she slipped up and, like, Elm questioned why, because, like, she lied to Elm about NYU. It became a pretty big part because, like, then, like I said, she was kind of lying as both, because their worlds had collided and their paths had crossed already. So like there were certain things that she slipped up, almost like wanting to tell Jake as Olivia. She slipped up and told Elm as Carrie, and he kind of questioned some things. Like I said, she had said something about like being in the cabin or like being in the woods or something, and he was like, aren't you at that writing program? And she like freaked out, and she basically made something up about a field trip or like an off week or something. So it was very quickly becoming pretty difficult for her to keep her lies straight. To make the situation even worse, Olivia and Jake quickly became closer. They started hanging out and kind of becoming like a little bit more friends than just coworkers. Very quickly they kind of started to like each other. Well, Jake liked Olivia. On top of the fact that she was feeling guilty about lying to him twice anyway, she then started feeling even more guilty because like they were starting to have an actual connection in person, like as not really herself, because she wasn't being completely honest as Olivia. Shocker. But it was all over the place. So she was kind of fighting the urge to be honest and tell him, like, she wanted to tell him so many different times that she was Carrie and that she was just kind of lying. But then, like, something would happen and she didn't, like, it just wasn't the right time, or so she thought. I think the right time would have been probably at the very beginning of the whole thing. She was kind of battling between feeling guilty and being scared to kind of ruin both of their relationships, like both on Reddit and in person, because, and I think that's what really got her, was like, she wasn't just gonna lose Jake, she was gonna lose Elm. He was such a big part of her life, and like, it hadn't been that long, but it was a couple months. He was, like, she told him everything, they talked about everything, they had so much of a connection, and so her fear was that, like, she can't lose that, and what would she do without that? So there was a lot that she was dealing with, and there was a lot she was kind of battling as she was trying to figure out, like, how to navigate working with both sides kind of thing. It was a really intense roller coaster of emotions. Like I said, Jake and Olivia hanging out more, getting closer, becoming a little bit of a thing, and then all of a sudden, Katie shows up. I literally freaked out when I read that. I was reading in the living room, my sister walked in, and I was like, I had my head in my hands. She was like, what happened? I was like, the friend showed up, because I was telling her about it, and she was like, oh no. So I freaked out, and I was like, this is gonna change everything. And it did. So obviously Olivia freaks out, and she was like, they cannot be in the same room right now. Of course, Jake freaks out because he just saw Carrie. Poor Katie had no idea what was happening. It was literally the most horrible part, and like, not in a serious way. It was just so insane, and like, it was so intense too. So Jake goes running over to Katie, and he's like, Carrie, like all excited and like yelling her name. And she was, of course, she wasn't even confused at first. She didn't even acknowledge that he was there. And like, he kept talking to her. I don't know what she thought was happening. So obviously she was talking to Olivia, and Olivia's like, what are you doing here? And she was like, I came to see you, because Olivia had invited Katie up at the beginning of the summer, but because Katie was going to some acting program. So she was like, oh, well, if you have a weekend or something, come up and like spend some time. In the chaos of the whole Jake Elm thing, she had completely forgotten that she'd invited Katie up there. So she shows up, and they had to quickly like kind of come up with a storyline. So without being able to talk to each other, Katie has to basically understand that Olivia wants her to lie to Jake. So she does pretty effortlessly. The one part she jokes about, she was like, it's the greatest acting challenge I've ever had in my life. So the plan is set. Katie is going to lie about being Carrie. The only part that they were really honest about was that Olivia and Katie were friends. So of course Jake was like, there's no way, how in the, like, he was all surprised that like his two friends knew each other. So the three of them basically hang out for the next like week or so, and they have to lie straight to his face every second. And of course Katie didn't know anything about Elm. Like, she didn't know who he was, or that like She knew that Olivia had like a Reddit thing, but she didn't know that like they talked a lot, or like she had a friend on there. So she was completely in the dark, and she has no idea about anything horror related. So that was a toughie. So she basically has to pretend to be Carrie, knowing nothing about how those two interacted with each other, like the stuff that they talked about, or like Olivia's opinions about the different topics that they talk about. So it didn't go so well. It wasn't always the smoothest ride, but they were somewhat succeeding, oddly enough. So it all kind of falls apart when one night the three of them went to dinner with Jake's aunt, who is like in the film world. She's a horror film director, which of course Olivia was so excited about. So Olivia, during the whole process of like working at the zipline company and hanging out with Jake and like becoming not a new person, but like stepping out of her comfort zone and just kind of getting used to this new world that she's in, finished her screenplay. She wrote the entire thing. It was like 90 pages. So of course, the second she's done, what does she do but send it to Elm? Because she was so excited. He was like, the second you're done with it, send it to me. Well, of course she put her real name on there. So she had a little bit of a jump scare. She sent the screenplay that he knew that Carrie was writing with Olivia's name on it. So she freaked out and hurried up and changed it. So that was just another little bump in the road of her lies. So she finishes the screenplay. Jake kept saying like to Katie, oh hey, I'll read the screenplay, didn't read it yet. So he finally did, and he told his aunt about it. So the four of them went out to dinner because she wanted to talk about the screenplay with Katie, technically. So they're sitting down at dinner, they're talking about the screenplay and like just horror genres in general. They were talking about Carrie's opinion of horror and different like cliches and different whatevers. And of course Katie really didn't know anything about any of that. So like despite Olivia trying to train her in certain things, not only like Elm and Carrie's like conversation history, but different horror facts and like the world of those films, but she still like ultimately didn't know really what she was talking about. So she was kind of biffing the conversation a bit, and Olivia was getting upset because she was saying like complete opposite of what Olivia thought. So she was like, you're like kind of giving me a bad rep here. So she was just making a bunch of wrong opinions to Olivia. She could put up with it for a bit, but the part that really got Olivia was Katie started talking about her screenplay and like why she wrote certain stuff, or like why she chose whatever. And Olivia started getting mad because she was getting it all wrong. So I could understand, that was probably the most relatable part, or like the most realistic part of the whole thing, was that like I could completely understand Olivia's frustration in that moment, because it was like Katie was taking Olivia's pride and joy, literally her work. She had finally finished after all this time. She had finally crossed that speed bump that she had to get over, in this box that she had put herself in. She broke free and wrote the screenplay. It was a big accomplishment, and everyone was, kind of like hooting and hollering about it and making it a big deal. And of course, she had to lie about the thing that meant the world to her, to one of the most important people in her life. Like, she could be honest about it with Elm, but it was like he was right in front of her and she had to pretend like she didn't write it. So I understand that being frustrating for her, and then to have somebody who's pretending to write it kind of like run it through the mud a little bit and get a lot of it wrong, I'm sure that was painful. She was getting really upset because, like I said, she was getting just a lot of the details wrong about the screenplay, and like just voicing opinions about some of the topics in ways that like Olivia just wouldn't at all. So the two of them start fighting at the table in front of Jake and his aunt. I can't remember what Olivia said, but Katie said, well, I wrote it. And Olivia said, no, you didn't. And everyone kind of froze. And then they made up this thing about like them co-writing it, basically, to like trying to save it. But it really upset Olivia because she wanted to be honest about it so badly, but she knew that in order to do that, everything would have to come out, and she wasn't necessarily ready for that. So it basically leads to Jake kind of realizing that something was up. So they were driving back to Olivia's cabin, and he kind of was like being short with her a little bit. She was kind of wondering why. And then he basically just admitted that he knew that she was Carrie. And so he immediately got upset, rightfully so. But he kind of thought that Katie and Olivia were lying to him to make fun of him, kind of thing, or like they were just joking around with him. And she was like trying to convince him like it wasn't a joke, like she wasn't lying to be mean necessarily, she was just lying because she was scared. And he wasn't really believing her, and he kind of did after a bit of her convincing him that she was just doing it because she was insecure and she was afraid to kind of put herself out there like that. And he got that. He was kind of almost more upset that that she could be so unsure of herself in a way, not in like a mean way, but he like didn't understand it because obviously he likes her, so like he just didn't understand how she could think so little of herself to do something like that. So it was a really bittersweet moment because he was like, you're too beautiful to do something like that, or like you're something about like to lie basically. And it was really cute, but obviously it was sad because he was really angry with her. So like he was saying something nice in a kind of angry tone, so she couldn't really enjoy the moment too much. So she gets out of the car, she goes into the cabin, and she tries to find Katie because she was also mad at her, obviously, because she was being dragged against her will into this whole mess. So she goes into their room and she tries to talk to Katie, and she just goes to sleep. The next day she tries to talk to Katie and she's like asking her like why she's mad at her, and Katie basically was like, you spent the entire time I've been here worried about this lie that you put me in. She put her in the middle of this big messy thing that Olivia solely created. She was basically like, she just wasn't being a good friend, which I get completely. Like Olivia hadn't asked, other than like right when she arrived, and it wasn't even a genuine question, she was more afraid of Jake finding out, but like she hadn't asked her why she was actually there. Like she hadn't asked how the acting program went, why she was taking a break. So she finds out that Katie dropped out of the acting program because she didn't think that she was good enough per the teacher's opinions. And she came up for the weekend because her parents were mad at her, mostly her mom, because it was costing them more money for her to drop out. So she wanted to get away from that and not have to fight and deal with like the consequences. So she was mad at her that like she didn't ask her about any of that, and Katie didn't feel like she could tell Olivia that because she was obviously dealing with her own mess. And then she was even more mad that like Olivia was basically taking advantage of Katie and using her to get out of said mess, but like just making it worse by making it so complicated. So those two weren't really talking, and then obviously she couldn't talk to Jake, but she still had to work with him, so that was awful. So the end of the book is pretty quick, honestly. Like it just kind of abruptly ends a little bit. Kitty goes to leave, goes back home. They make up, kind of like last second they make up, so they're fine. And like Olivia kind of has to deal with like understanding why she wanted to lie to Jake and to herself, really. So she kind of, with help from Katie, understands that like she's worthy of love and she's good enough to be herself and not pretend to be somebody else. So Olivia goes to find Jake at work. She tries to find him in the office, but he's up at like the zip line thing. So she climbs all the way up there, which she's still, despite having worked there for like a month, she's still afraid of heights. So she climbs all the way up there, she gets on the zip line, it's this whole big romantic gesture, and basically they get tangled up somehow on the thing and they can't get down right away. So she basically apologizes and like asks him to forgive her and to move on and stuff, and he just kind of like accepts it. Like as angry as he was with her and about lying and everything, he just forgives her, and like they kiss at the end of the book, and that's that. Like I don't know, if I had to complain about any part of it, it would be the ending, just because I think that it's, like I said, it's so abrupt. Like it's just, then it cuts, there's nothing else, and I feel like he got over it pretty quickly. But I don't know, it was still pretty good. So my overall opinions of the book are pretty positive. I genuinely love the story. Again, like I said, I'm not usually into these type of books, but I genuinely really liked this one. I loved the dynamic between Elm and Carrie was really great to see, and like I think that's the other part that like I hate that the ending was so quick, was because like I loved the relationship that they had as Carrie and Elm, and I would have really loved to have seen that as Olivia and Jake. I think that their banter and like the vibe of their relationship was so cute as friends that I could only imagine what it would have been like as a couple. So I kind of wish we would have been able to get some of that, but it's fine. Like I said at the beginning, my other favorite part about the whole story and about Olivia specifically was honestly just how they went about describing her life as a writer, or like the struggles that she faced writing, and with like school rejection, kind of like her self-esteem issues and the whole thing. It was well written. It was relatable, but it wasn't too hard to read, if that makes, like, in a secondhand embarrassment kind of way. Like, you know how a lot of writers, and this might just be a me thing, but like they try to write cringy characters, or like characters who have tough spots in their lives, or like in an awkward phase of their lives, and it's kind of hard to handle sometimes, or like it's just so filled with secondhand embarrassment, or like filled with like the most cringy characters you could ever imagine, and it's like I can't relate to this person and I can't exactly support them. But Olivia, genuinely, I really did like her, which is again is pretty new, because I struggle with main characters in books like this, because usually I don't relate to them very much, or usually I don't just like them very much. And like, girl, like I had parts with Olivia where I was like, you could get out of this very easily, but it was honestly few and far between. There's some other characters, like, they just make their lives harder than they need to be. And sure, to an extent, Olivia did too, but like, I don't know, I liked her a lot better. And I adore Jake. He's a pretty good book guy, you know? I also love the writer's ability to like describe the kind of emotional stakes that the story holds, because like the part that I was like, I couldn't relate to because it never happened to me, but the part that I was the most sympathetic with was like her inability to kind of come clean about some things because she didn't want to lose him. Like, I think that it wasn't like she wasn't dependent on him like that. It's not in a weird way, but like Elm, Jake, whatever you want to call him, literally, like, he meant so much to her, and their connection, their relationship meant the world to her, because like I said, in many ways, like, she had a best friend, she had good parents, she had an aunt that, you know, she loved and that understood her, but like in many ways she kind of only had Jake for certain things, like because nobody she knew really liked horror movies, and that was such a big part of her life. Like, more than just liking the films, she was a writer, like she was a horror writer, so it was a big part of her life, and it was really important for her to have somebody that understood that part of her life, and Jake was the only one that did. So I get her not wanting to lose that. So, like, she didn't want to lose his friendship or his support or anything, because like she didn't really have anybody else in her life like Jake. So while most of the book I was like, girl, it'd be so much easier if you just came clean, I get her not wanting to, because like then she was afraid that she would lose him. Obviously, looking back, he forgave her pretty quickly despite everything, so if she would have done it in the beginning, you know, maybe it wouldn't have been so bad. But yeah, overall, I really like the story. I think it has an interesting blend of topics. Like, I think it deals with like real world insecurities and problems and just kind of things that, like, at that point in time, like in the age that they are in the book, that like so many people go through, while also reflecting situations that like most people don't find themselves in. It was just a really interesting story. I'm glad that I own it, and I'm glad that I've read it. I also think it's just one of those situations where like I don't think that I ever would have checked out the story any other time. If we weren't in the store with it in my hand while it was also on clearance, that was just a small part of it, I don't think I would have bought it or like had any interest in it. But it was like, when it was like $4, I don't even know, but we're like, we might as well get it. We were just book shopping anyway. Like, I feel like if I saw it on Amazon, I probably wouldn't have gotten it. So I'm kind of glad. It was one of those situations where like it was like a hidden gem in a way, where like I wouldn't have ever have imagined that I would be interested in a book like this, but I'm so glad that I found it, because I genuinely was. And honestly, one of my favorite rom-coms now. I also cannot believe I haven't heard anybody else talking about this book. I said that in my last video, that like I looked on TikTok a little bit to see somebody else's opinion on it, and there was like 2 videos. Like, nobody's talking about this book. So I'm really hoping that some people will see this video and want to read it, because it's genuinely a good book. This is our first official book review video, which I was really excited to do. When I finished the book, I was like, oh, now I gotta film, because I was so excited to tell you guys about this book. I am now currently reading Picking Daisies on Sundays, so when I finish that book, I'll probably do another review video. It might not be as long. I'll either make it just a part of a Let's Chat video or I'll do a YouTube short, but I definitely want to tell you guys about it. But yeah, let me know how you guys like the book review videos. I definitely want to do a bunch more because I have a couple books lined up in my reading list. So I have a bunch of Lynn Painter books because I love her writing, so I'm really excited to check those out. So as always, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like and let me know what you guys think of the video. Also, comment some book recommendations, or comment, your opinion. If you have read Happy Messy Scary Love, leave a comment about your opinion of it, and let me know what you think about the video and the book. Honestly, like I said, any kind of book recommendations. It doesn't have to be books like this. Anything you're reading at the time that you think I'd like. Like I said, I have a wide variety of interests, and book-wise, I really have a wide interest too. I like fantasy books. I also like more darker themed books. Honestly, you know what? I'm gonna put you guys on something else. One of my favorite books is The Sleep Experiment by Jeremy Bates. That's the only one of his that I've read so far, but there's a bunch of other ones that I want to get into. The one I think it's called Suicide Forest. Sleep Experiment is a really good book. If you haven't read it, you should. You should definitely check it out. That's the kind of stories that you're into. It was so interesting. And I think it is different from the movie Sleep Experiment. I'm pretty sure that's about something else. So, I don't know. But it was a really interesting book. I read it a couple years ago now. I was still in high school. And oh my goodness, I was obsessed with it. I was really sad when I was done with it because it was the only kind of those books that I had. So I definitely want to get more of his because I know he has a bunch out. But yeah, any kind of books like those. Again, like I said, fantasy. I love Throne of Glass, Daughter of the Pirate King, those types of books. Books like Lights Out or The Love Hypothesis, those kind of stories. I love those ones. I also adore Emily Henry. The only ones I have so far are Beach Read, but I also loved People We Meet on Vacation. So any kind of stories you think I'd be interested in, please feel free to leave a comment recommending anything. And again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week. Bye.